My name is Leah, and I met my future husband Billy a couple of years ago. It all started as unpredictable fate when we met mutual friends at a party. There was genuine chemistry between us, and I was sure that our love would overcome any difficulties. At first, I ignored the fact that Billy had a daughter from his first marriage. It wasn't a problem for me. I believed that we could make a happy family together, including his daughter, whose name was Emma. I wanted to be a good stepmom and do my best to make her feel loved and accepted. However, as our relationship progressed, I began to notice that Billy's ex-wife, named Carolyn, was trying to ruin our happy family. She was jealous and often created conflicts between Billy and me. Caroline did not want to accept that Billy had found a new love and was building a new family. Her actions began to affect our lives. Billy was often depressed and frustrated because his ex-wife was keeping him from enjoying happiness with us. Emma also became susceptible to Caroline's manipulation, and I could see her suffering from strife between her parents. I didn't find out right away that Billy had a daughter from his first marriage. One day, as we walked through the park, Billy finally had the courage to share a secret he'd kept to himself for a long time. He took my hand and said,
"Leah, I have something I want to tell you. I have a daughter from my first marriage."
He looked into my eyes, as if searching for an answer to his own indecision. I felt it was important to be open and understanding. I smiled at him and said, "Billy, I appreciate you admitting this to me. Your daughter doesn't change my perception of you. I'm ready to accept you and your family, whatever they may be." Billy breathed a sigh of relief and said,
"Thank you, Leah. You're just amazing. Emma is my life, and I want you to be a part of her life if you're ready."
I told him that I would love to welcome Emma into my life and try to be a better stepmom to her. Billy began to describe his first marriage, and I could see his eyes filling with sadness. He told me that his ex-wife had become unbearable and constantly humiliated him. She continually blamed him for not making enough money and not giving enough time to his daughter. All of this was happening in front of Emma, and he could see how it was affecting her. His wife had overstepped her bounds when she started cheating on him and blaming him for it. He realized that this relationship wasn't going to do any good and decided to leave the family, but he promised them that he would always support and help them. I listened to him carefully, and my heart squeezed with compassion for what he was going through. I felt he needed support and understanding. I began to prepare myself for the challenges our family would have, and I was ready to accept the challenge. As time passed, my relationship with Billy only grew stronger. One day, Billy came up to me holding a box. He was smiling, and there was a glow of joy and excitement in his eyes. "Leah, I can't imagine my life without you. You've made me happier than I ever imagined. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and create a happy and loving family. Leah, will you marry me?" My heart skipped a few beats and tears of happiness filled my eyes. I looked at this man who had become my soulmate, and I realized that this was the happiest moment of my life. I nodded and whispered, "Of course, yes, Billy. I will marry you. I want to go through life next to you, loving and taking care of our family." Tears of joy streamed down our faces as Billy put the ring on my finger. We announced our plans to our loved ones and joyfully celebrated the moment that marked the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. But Carolyn apparently didn't like the news, and she decided to do everything she could to keep the wedding from happening. It had been a dream of mine to have a wedding in my own style, and I was willing to do whatever it took to make it a special day. Billy fully supported me in this. He understood how important it was for me to create an unforgettable atmosphere for our wedding. However, as we began to prepare for the wedding, Billy's ex-wife became increasingly aggressive and manipulative, demanding more money for her daughter. She asked for money every week, claiming that Billy was spending all of his money on the wedding and that he was feeling sorry for his daughter. It was a very difficult experience for both of us. We wanted to meet the needs and support our family. But at the same time, it was important for us to create the wedding we had always dreamed of. Billy felt pressured and felt disconnected between his commitment to his daughter and my desires. We discussed this problem among ourselves, and I understood that Billy's ex-wife was using her power and influence to ruin our wedding. However, I did not want these problems to affect our happiness and our future together. At first, Billy and I's happy cohabitation was somewhat disrupted by his complicated relationship with his ex-wife. She knew how to manipulate him and took every opportunity to get his attention. She had a hard time accepting the fact that Billy had already started a new chapter of his life with me. The longer we lived together, the more often I began to notice that Billy was heavily influenced by his ex-wife. He was constantly taking her calls and worrying about her problems, even if they seemed inconsequential. No matter what we were doing or where we were, he immediately rushed to help her. This was beginning to irritate me and make me distrustful. I understood that Billy was trying to be a responsible father and maintain a good relationship with his daughter, but it was beginning to affect our time together and our personal freedom. Calls and requests for help became more and more frequent, and I felt secondary in his life. We began to discuss the problem, and I told Billy how I felt. I explained that it was important for me to feel his presence and support, and that the constant interruptions because of my ex-wife were affecting our connection and happiness. This conversation with Billy was very difficult for me. I tried to explain my feelings and needs to him, hoping for understanding and compromise. I wanted him to understand that I was not denying the importance of his relationship with his daughter, but only asking for more time and attention to prepare for our wedding. However, when I started talking about my expectations, Billy got upset. He felt that I couldn't fully accept his situation and understand that the relationship with his ex-wife and daughter would always play an important role in his life. He was frustrated that I could not accept him unconditionally, despite the difficulties he was facing. I was deeply resentful of Billy. I didn't want to forbid him from helping his daughter and maintaining his relationship with his ex-wife. I was always willing to support him in this. But I just wanted him to also understand where and when I needed his support and involvement, especially in preparing for our wedding. The conversation ended on an uncomfortable note, and I felt misunderstood and not important enough in his life. Despite all the complications and frustrations, the situation with visiting Emma, Billy's daughter, was a real headache for me. I couldn't understand why Billy's ex-wife wouldn't let me see Emma. I understood that it might be important for her to be in control, but it seemed to me that she wasn't giving me a chance to meet and connect with Billy's daughter. This was especially difficult for me, as I was eager to be a part of our new family and develop a relationship with Emma. I wanted to show her that I hadn't come to replace her mother, but to support and love her as my own daughter. However, every time I tried to offer my help or spend time with Emma, Billy's ex-wife insisted on my absence from the meetings. I tried to be patient and understanding, but inside, I was growing resentful and frustrated. Dealing with this difficult situation was not easy for me. I realized that Billy's wife and daughter would always be an important part of his life, and that this could be a barrier to our family life. I began to think about the future and realized that we might have difficulty having children of our own. I was anxious about how I would compete with the attention that Billy was constantly giving his ex-wife and daughter. I worried that I would not be able to provide my future children with the same attention and care that Billy provides his daughter. Billy assured me that he wanted to create a happy and healthy family with me, and that we would find a way to balance the attention between all family members. But his words didn't make me feel better, because he didn't have enough time for me at the time, and he had to make time, and he had to make time for another child. The closer we got to the wedding, the more Caroline demanded Billy in Emma's life. I was worried sick about the wedding, and Caroline was always messing it up. Billy's wife was becoming more and more insolent and demanding by the day. She kept calling for trivial things that she could have handled on her own. She'd ask him to fix a faucet, take her to work, or help with other small things that didn't require his immediate intervention. I understood that this was part of their arrangement and that Billy was always there for her. He was a caring and compassionate father and ex-husband, and he tried to honor his commitments. However, I began to feel that she was abusing this situation and taking advantage of his kindness. It was hard for me to accept that Billy's wife could not handle such simple tasks that were easily handled by other means, such as calling a cab or workers. I decided to talk to Billy again and share my observations and feelings. I explained to him that I felt my wife was using his weakness to stay in his life and manipulate him. Billy listened to me carefully and acknowledged that perhaps he had become too attached to his obligations to his ex-wife. He understood that this was affecting us and that we needed to find ways to set healthy boundaries. During the week that Billy stayed with his ex-wife because Emma was sick, I was full of mixed feelings. On the one hand, I understood that it was necessary in order to help his daughter, and I supported him in that. On the other hand, however, jealousy and anxiety were seething inside me. Being separated from Billy throughout this week was not easy for me. My thoughts often returned to thoughts of their time together, and I couldn't shake off my feelings of jealousy. I wondered if I had become as important a part of Billy's life as his ex-wife. What if something reminded him of his past life, and he wouldn't come back to me? What if Caroline seduced him or his daughter asked him to stay, and I wasn't his priority anymore? I was in a constant internal conflict between knowing that Billy should be there for his daughter and wanting him to be there for me. This week was a test for our relationship and for me personally. When Billy's wife came to talk to me in person, I felt mixed feelings. Nervousness and some anxiety. She was persistent and serious. We sat down at the table and started talking. She started talking about how Billy would always belong to her, and that one day he would return to her and their family. I understood that this was important to her and that she was trying to emphasize her place in his life. However, I hated to hear her try to establish her superiority over me. I decided to remain calm and express my feelings and thoughts. I told her that I understood how important it was for her to keep in touch with Billy, especially in light of their daughter. However, I also stressed that Billy and I were building our own family and that I hoped for our happy future together. She continued to assert her right to him and insinuate that he would always be there for her. She also tried to hurt my feelings that sooner or later Billy wouldn't be able to resist and she would get her way and bring him back into the family. I calmly asked her to leave. She broke my vase of flowers before she left and left. I don't understand how Billy put up with that woman. I mean, she's crazy. I told him all about her visit to me, and he just laughed and told me not to take it personally. I happened to find out that Billy was not only paying child support and giving extra money to his daughter, but that he was fully supporting his ex-wife. I was shocked at how well this woman was doing, since Emma is already in junior high school, and Caroline has to provide for herself. Billy's ex-wife seemed used to this position and counted on his constant support. I could see that she took little initiative in finding a job or taking on financial responsibility. This sometimes made me feel unfair and irritated. Billy and I discussed the matter, and I expressed my concerns and feelings at it. He listened to me carefully and explained that his financial support was based on his commitment as a father and former spouse. He emphasized that this did not mean that he did not appreciate or love me, and that our family had its place in his life. I made the argument to that effect that as Emma grew older, so would Caroline's appetites. He agreed with me and decided to let his ex know. It was obvious that my suggestion displeased Billy's ex-wife. When he shared our new arrangement with her, she objected vehemently. She argued that he was obligated to provide for her financially because it was their joint responsibility and a promise made during the divorce. Billy's ex-wife expressed her resentment and began pointing out every little thing she thought she was entitled to receive. She rebuked Billy for cheating on their arrangement and that I was trying to tear him away from their family. Her words were filled with anger and accusations against me. This created tension and conflict in our relationship. I had mixed feelings ranging from frustration and jealousy to anxiety and worry. I feared that this situation could continue and become a source of ongoing problems in our future family. Our wedding was small but very meaningful to us. We looked forward to the day, full of hope and joy. However, one shadow of our happiness was Emma's absence from our wedding. Billy's ex-wife refused to allow her to attend, even though Billy really wanted his daughter by our side on this special day. This was a big disappointment to both of us. I understood that Billy's ex-wife was trying to use this to her advantage to emphasize her power and control over the situation. She was unwilling to acknowledge that Billy had created a new family in which I also played an important role. She also tried to derail the wedding date by the fact that Emma wanted to go on the carousel with him. And she judged him in front of her daughter that he had a new family and didn't want her anymore. But Billy talked to Emma and promised her to go another day. This was difficult for him, for Caroline had turned Emma against him. After a while, an event took place that suddenly turned Billy and I upside down. Billy's ex-wife brought Emma to our house and left a note. In the note, she spoke of her dissatisfaction with her situation, her feeling that she had been abandoned, and her reluctance to look for work. She had decided to go to Italy to meet the man she had been communicating with online and to leave Emma with Billy. This event caused me mixed feelings. On the one hand, I was concerned and worried about Emma. She was an innocent girl facing the destruction of her family and the abandonment of her mother. I understood that she might be feeling pain and confusion within herself. On the other hand, I felt relieved at the lack of constant interference and manipulation from Billy's ex-wife. I hoped this would be a new beginning for our family, where we could focus on ourselves and our future. Billy and I discussed the situation and decided to accept Emma with an open heart and a hug. We knew she needed our support and love during this difficult time. We promised ourselves that we would do everything we could to create stability and a happy family environment for her. I gradually became closer to Emma, trying to be supportive for her. It was not easy for us to break down Emma's attitudes imposed by her mother. I had to work long and hard to gain her trust. But after a while, I did hear words of love and gratitude from her.